what I would like everybody to do is firmly plant their feet on the ground and think about the land in which we sit. And when we think about this year and we think back of all of the things that happened, we certainly learned a whole bunch of truth. We learned truth about the history of this country and about our Indigenous neighbors and friends and you know, what life has been for them. So as we are getting really close to a new year, I would challenge everybody, you know, as you acknowledge the land you're on and sort of embrace the land you live on, think about what you're going to do next year for reconciliation. And I'll share a really quick story that an elder once taught me about a tricycle. And he said, think about what we lost as a bright, shiny tricycle. And this tricycle meant everything to you. It meant everything to you because this tricycle was also owned. Your father had a tricycle that looked like this, and so did your grandfather. And all you ever wanted was this tricycle. And when you finally got it, somebody else on your street came and took that tricycle. And he rode that tricycle up and down the road past your house every day. And you could see that tricycle that was once brilliantly shiny, and it was like the best tricycle you ever had, going up and down the street. And it was getting muddy and it was getting dented, and you could see it sitting out in the rain, but you couldn't get that tricycle back. And then you shared your story about how much the tricycle meant, but now you're 20, 25, 40. And so this person brings back the tricycle and says, I'm sorry, here's back your tricycle. The tricycle no longer meant what it did when you got it, because it's not shiny and new, it's rusty, and you can no longer ride it. And you also lent your whole childhood without it. You let your parents down, you let your family down, you never get to have that tricycle. So when we think about reconciliation, think about the tricycle. It's not just about giving back what was lost. It's not just saying, I'm sorry I took the tricycle. I understand that was hard. But how do we make it whole? How do we make them whole? How do we give back what that tricycle meant? So that will be my inspiration for next year when you're thinking about reconciliation. It's not just, now that we know these truths, now that we know sort of the dirty history of our country, we understand that, you know, over half of the First Nations communities in Ontario don't have clean water and are unlikely to have clean water in 2022, what that means. And so that will be my hope, that next year you really pick a way to do reconciliation that's meaningful, that's more than just returning the tricycle that no longer matters. So welcome, everybody. I'm excited to hear what you all have to say. And I hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, Danny. It's always so inspiring when you talk, because I can hear your heart in the land acknowledgement that you do every single month. And I am always thankful. You make me reflect and you make me thoughtful. And I think that's what we can ask of ourselves when we do land acknowledgements. So thank you very much. And so normally what I do is a quick piece about who the coalition is. Who are we? And I know that many of you are repeat customers, if you will. You've been here before, and I thank you for that. And so I just want to very briefly say that we started the coalition in 2019 with a funded grant from the Women and Gender Equality, or part of the government, the federal government, called WAGE. And we are so thankful that they recognize that gender equality is an issue and that we need to work towards that, and that working from the grassroots is a good idea and is the way to, one of the ways to achieve this. And so we are continuing that work. So I really think we're in our infant stages. Our board has been in place now since January, and we started the speaker series in February. And we have continued to do some things. We have so many connections now with the community. We have been working with students from Western, students from Fanshawe on different projects and different things. Many of our partners or connections are here tonight to speak about their own organizations. But these are the relationships that we're building, and we want to continue to build those relationships. And so I thank you all for being here. For many of you have joined as members, and we appreciate that as well, because as we move forward, it's our members' voices that we'll be listening to, as well as the people who join us on our speaker series. So thank you for that. So for the order tonight, I don't have any specific order in mind, but I wondered, since Matt, since you are on our board, if you wouldn't mind going first. And I will, as I said prior to the start, I'll let you do your own introduction and tell us a little bit about the organization you're here representing and our partnership there.
Sure. Thank you for that, Linda. Before I get started, though, I wanted to say that it's an absolute honor to join this conversation, especially to log on and see a former Thames Valley student who's also going to be speaking tonight. So Aditi, I'm not going to steal your thunder because you're going to do a great job representing yourself, but it's so wonderful to see you on this call tonight. So thanks, Linda, for having me. My name is Matt Sarita. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm the Equity Learning Coordinator for the Thames Valley District School Board, and a board member of the coalition. So thankful to have the opportunity to connect with you folks and learn about your organizations and all the fantastic work that you're doing in the community, and just share a little bit about some of the really good work that happened in Thames Valley this past year. And so I know we all were shocked when we received the news yesterday of the passing of Bell Hooks. And so I really wanted to sort of frame tonight's conversation around sort of a quote from Bell Hooks that's always really resonated with me, but also sort of connects to, I think, the approach that we're trying to do in the work. And so the quote that I love is this idea that rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. And so I think when I think about, Linda, that the way you framed this conversation tonight, and the idea of, you know, what are some of the challenges of this past year, but also what are some of those successes? The largest challenge for me and for the Thames Valley Board, I think, are those broader societal community challenges that we've all experienced in the past year or two. COVID-19 obviously being front of mind for everybody, but locally, you know, the impact of the murder of the Afzal family, as Danny referenced, you know, the continual discovery of children's bodies at the locations of former residential schools, and then obviously the light that's been shone on the experiences of Black individuals around this world, I think has forced us all into a sort of reckoning in terms of, you know, what does it mean to live in communion with one another? What does it mean to live in community with one another? And how can we all collectively heal as we continue to experience such turbulent and traumatic times? But I think the flip side of that sort of narrative is also, I think, where I've seen the greatest success stories in all of these conversations. It's sort of that old adage that we heard when COVID first started is, you know, the father talking to the child about, you know, when there's a traumatic moment, you know, yes, we pay attention to what's going on, but we also need to be mindful of who are the helpers. And I think I've just been so inspired this past year, you know, folks, you know, such as yourselves on this call, but in all of these really tough moments when they've popped up, I've just been incredibly inspired by the number of helpers that exist in our communities that are committed to these very, very important conversations. And so I think it would be foolish if I didn't focus some of my good news stories that's happened, you know, in Thames Valley outside of sort of gender equity. And so that's really what I wanted to talk to us tonight about, is some of the gender equity initiatives that we as a school board have implemented over the past couple of years, but really significantly this last year, because we know specifically that the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted women and those that identify as non-binary and transgender in very different ways than it's impacted others. And so I do think we need to put a gendered lens on just about everything that we do. So Thames Valley was the first school board in Ontario, and I'm pretty sure one of the first school boards in Canada to provide free menstrual products in our schools. And we were really, really pleased this year to see, the Ministry of Education jump on board with this and provide provincial dollars to support these initiatives for all school boards in Ontario. So we know that access to free menstrual products in schools is very much an equity issue. And it's also an issue that directly confronts inequities that we see in student achievement and well-being as well, when students that don't have access to a product very well just might leave school. And so when we think about initiatives directly geared at promoting equity in education, menstrual equity is right up there. So we are thrilled as a board to be a leader in that conversation. This year, we've also had great success partnering with law students at Western University related to consent conversations, and so have been providing presentations that we're titling Project Consent, really targeting secondary as well as grade 7 and 8 students related to legal definitions of consent in healthy relationships. And I'm pleased with sort of the outpouring of support that we've seen across the school board for different groups and classes wanting to sign up for those presentations. We also have a presentation that we run internally ourselves, where we talk about healthy masculinity and healthy relationships. And so it is important. I know we've had a number of conversations as a board. Very near and dear to my heart is always interrogating the root causes of violence. And we know, one of the leading, if not the root cause of men's violence against women and girls is patriarchy. And misogyny. And so we are very pleased to have a long-standing commitment in our board where we actively talk to young men and boys about what does positive masculinity look like and what do healthy relationships look like. And so those presentations continue to be absolutely one of the favorite parts of my job. We also had great success this year with our 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence campaign. We provided educator and school resource guides to all staff in our boards to actively talk about the 16 Days of Activism campaign throughout November and December. And so really, really great work has happened in Thames Valley, but it has only happened because of the fantastic relationships that we have in the community. And so to all of the folks that are on this call, that are directly part of that work, I thank you, because this work can't happen if it happens in isolation. And so again, just really thank you all for the opportunity to share and connect with you this evening.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matt. That's so amazing. And I love the good news stuff and the consent and healthy masculinity, the period products, all of that. Really great and very positive going forward. So switching gears now, maybe because you were the first one on the call, Leah, I wonder if we could call on you next.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just going to share my screen. So my name is Leah Marshall. I use she, her pronouns, and I am Fanshawe College's Sexual Violence Prevention Advisor. The challenges the last couple of years have been providing support to survivors virtually as our students went home in March of 2019 to start studying. And so tonight I thought I would just highlight 10 initiatives that we've done over the past year to support survivors on campus. So one of our first items was putting sexual health vending machines on campus. So a lot of the access that students had to products diminished with COVID. Our pharmacy closed, students were quarantined, finances were a barrier. So we took an existing health bot vending machine and we made it into a sexual health vending machine. So we wanted to make sexual health products accessible, but also inclusive. So we carry condoms and dental dams at cost. These are not money-making machines. These are strictly to put these products in the hands of students. So like Matt, we also provide free menstrual products on campus to students, But in these machines, we partnered with companies such as Diva Cup and Isle to provide reusable menstrual products at cost to students, so cheaper than they could buy them even in a Shoppers Drug Mart. We also were very lucky to be able to bring in different speakers that we wouldn't have been able to if we weren't hosting all of our events virtually. So we were able to host Vivek Shareya, who is a wonderful presenter, visual and recording artist and professor at University of Calgary. And we celebrated queer identity on campus. When we're talking about anti-violence work, sometimes the conversations obviously are mostly surrounding violence, and we don't talk about celebrating the diversity in our community and how we can uplift each other. And so this was a wonderful presentation. I would recommend everyone to check out Vivek's work. We also wanted to get our products and different items to our students, and that made it difficult when no one was on campus. So we partnered with the Institute for Indigenous Learning to mail out self-care and sexual health care packages to our students. So this included traditional medicines, sexual health products, things around minimizing stress and helping with grounding. And so 60 Indigenous students on campus signed up and were mailed these individual packages. And this year we plan to do another 150 as we go into the winter term, since it was so successful. As part of our involvement in the Safe Cities Committee, we also worked on a subcommittee with the London Transit Committee, as well as Western, to pull together these resources for bus safety. So the project was highlighting how individuals can access support if they experience sexual or gender-based violence on the bus, but also how individuals can step in as bystanders. And so this document was created as part of the subcommittee, and then we put these into all of our bus shelters on campus, as well as provided these in our bus holders that go out to every student that has a bus pass. We also recognized that students and survivors had trouble accessing supportive programming now that we were online, and as everything else in their natural support network was really closed, including the availability of trauma-informed yoga and other body-based supports. And so we brought on this trauma-informed yoga instructor to do virtual teachings. And so we held a virtual class for students. All of our programming is free to survivors. And so we held this once a month first semester, and we're going to do the same next. Also this year, as many of you may know, we have campuses in Woodstock, St. Thomas, and Simcoe as well. And so one of our staff members actually spearheaded working on the Woodstock campus and with the Woodstock community to proclaim a day of International Day of Elimination of Violence Against Women for Oxford County, which was incredible. We raised flags at several locations. And so Rublin Smith was our staff member who spearheaded this in the Woodstock community. And the one and only in-person event that we were able to have this year, as we were allowed to have students back and able to be in our spaces, was an event that's usually very successful. And it's our Sex, Drugs, and Rocky Road event. And so our first in-person event in 2 years, we had 150 students registered for in-person, and more joined us virtually. And so we held a trivia night where we spoke about ending gender-based violence, gender equity, sexual, erotic, and relational diversity. And so students were able to participate in this trivia event and win prizes and connect with some of our community resources. So we always bring the Options Clinic on campus to do rapid HIV testing at the event, as well as connecting students to gender-based violence services in the community. And then through our partnership with Innova, we run the Manmade Program. So this is a very successful program on campus that is specifically for male-identified folks. It targets toxic masculinity. It talks about intent versus impact. This program is always very successful in person, and so we didn't know what it would look like online. And we actually found that it was more successful online because some of our students that were even studying internationally were able to join. And so the conversations were much deeper and I think more broad than what we experience when we just host them on campus in person. And so we've successfully run 4 sessions virtually in the last year. And then our Take Back Our Campus event. So as our community is aware, not only the sexual violence experienced by Western students, but the sexually violent threats made on our Discord server this year, we came together as a community and met with our students and residents and asked them, what did they need from us? Students obviously were not feeling safe. And more conversations around how they can support each other came up during these conversations. So within a weekend, over 48 hours, the student union, as well as many other organizations on campus, came together to put together this event. So we had over 250 students and staff show up. We had speakers, we had our community partners present to provide resources to students, and we marched on campus. And lastly, we were able to virtually support 50 survivors this year. And so usually we see over 60 students a year. We know that it looked a little bit different as students connected in their own communities for support because of just obviously location and things that were happening not on campus now as everyone was in their home communities. But we are still able to support students on campus if they needed that. And we're continuing to still support them now as some are back in residence. So just a few highlights of some of the positive things that have happened on campus. We know in our community rates of gender-based violence are up, and there's definitely long wait lists for many services. So by providing some of this, not only on campus in terms of the counseling support and advocacy, but also the supportive programming, we've been able to connect survivors in all different communities. And that's been able to break down a lot of those pieces around isolation.
Wow.
I tried to be really quick, so thank you so much.
That's amazing, Leah. Thank you so much. And, you know, it's great to see in the college community, not only the high participation rates that you're getting, clearly showing a willingness to participate and a willingness to work towards solutions. So that's wonderful. I love some of those initiatives, and I think that we should talk about partnering on some of them in future. I think there's some opportunity there for next year for sure. Next, I wonder if I can call on Aditi.
For sure. Thanks, Linda. So I did prepare a slideshow, which I will screen share. Oh. Can I get a thumbs up if someone is able to see it? Yeah. Alrighty. So I'm here from Champions of Change, Canada, actually, representing a community-centric, youth-empowered gender activism group. And so a little bit about me before I talk more around Champions of Change. Number one is that I'm the founder. And so this is a journey I began 3 years ago when I was in grade 10. Feels like a while ago now. Number two is my role at Pillar Nonprofit Network. I think I saw one of my fellow coworkers here, but I've been working at Pillar since February as the Youth Engagement Coordinator. And then finally, my commitment as a student. I am currently enrolled at Western University in the engineering program, and in my third year looking to go into IB business. And as Matt Sarita mentioned, I was also a TVDSB student this past year, so I'm sort of in that transitionary phase between high school and university. So for this evening, I just really wanted to start on the topic of the inspiration behind Champions of Change and where we grew from. As I mentioned before, we really did begin as a high school club back in 2018. Me personally, I was experiencing a lot of derogatory terms being thrown around and lack of awareness, lack of a willingness to learn, lack of resources within my own school. I felt like, you know, within the social environment, there just wasn't enough discussion around gender equality, gender diversity, especially female empowerment. And I decided, you know what, no one else is doing the work in the school. Why not give it a shot? And that year I actually had 5 people join, in the following year, a few more, and we're actually now a team of 100 plus young people throughout Ontario. We have chapters in London, Hamilton, and Toronto. I think on my next slide, I actually have a picture of the team. This is back when we were still a school club, and a lot of these individuals are still members of the organization, and some of them actually leading some of our biggest projects. And so you can sort of see here how we began in 2018 and really have grown since then. And I think before I did skip a slide here. So in order to properly express to all of you the story behind where we came from and how we've grown, we actually did come up with a storytelling video, and this was designed by one of the young women in the organization, and she was able to sort of design the video. You'll see it as I pull it up. I think it really perfectly captures what I'm trying to express to you here. I'm not sure if I shared audio, so let me know if there's an issue with that.
What is a champion of change? In simple words, a champion of change is a leader, an advocate who never hesitates to stand up for what they believe in and take initiative to create the change they want to see in the world. Someone who gives a voice to marginalized communities. A champion doesn't speak for them or try to undermine their potential. A champion helps them find their voice again and embrace their identity. Hi, my name is Aditi Basdale, founder and co-managing director of Champions of Change Canada. We believe that challenging gender inequality starts at the community level with youth. Through leveraging the invaluable perspectives of youth throughout global communities, Champions of Change is breaking down barriers for people of all genders. Beginning as a school club, I founded, we have grown into a diverse group of 100+ individuals of various ages, races, and genders from across the world. Over the past years, we have handcrafted pearl necklaces, donated hundreds of care package items, hosted a female and gender diverse art show/auction, along with many more equality-centric enterprises. Champions of Change is addressing a deeply rooted issue for women and girls throughout all different types of communities. What we sell are more than just necklaces, artwork, and care packages. Our products and service represent a need for community in our customers, a desire to buy into a brand that uplifts women and creates a safe community, and allows customers to explore a unique combined experience of systemic oppression. We cater uniquely to young women and girls who want to explore local artists, who have a desire to become part of our community, and to believe that our products and services aren't just buying and social, but rather fulfilling their deeply rooted needs. The shared experiences are what bring together our team, beneficiaries, and most of all, customers. Get involved today and visit our website at www.championsofchange.info.
And I really quickly want to plug Jen in here. She's an amazing animator and editor. She does social media, website, and you'll see later on there's one more video I did want to share that she designed, but she is actually currently assistant managing director at Champions of Change, which is the second highest position, and she's a student and she designs these videos. So I wish she was able to join us today, but I just wanted to share how amazing she is as an individual and talented. So moving back to the slideshow, wondering if it will go back. Yeah. These are a few of the initiatives that I wanted to highlight. These are more focused around awareness and advocacy and empowerment for women and gender diverse individuals. Number one being Women in STEM. That was an event we ran last year. And we invited professors from the university to come share their unique experiences in the STEM fields with young women or young girls from local high schools. And that was a fairly successful event. Another one that we've been working on is called Cookies for Change. This is a really strong internal campaign in which we bake, I think, somewhere between 700 and 800 cookies and donate them back to homeless shelters. Equality artistry was mentioned in the video. that's when we partnered with a lot of local female and gender diverse artists. And we were then able to amplify their work as artists, but also raise money for local women's shelters. And for that campaign, we were able to donate back into ANOVA, which I realized was mentioned previously by someone else. And the second one we have here is called Prideful Words, which I really do want to highlight as I think the strongest campaign we've had this year. And one that I'm most proud of, because it really did come from someone who came into Champions of Change really shy. She wasn't confident in her idea. She was sort of hesitant to explore her role as a leader. And for me, you know, going from a place where I couldn't talk in front of 5 people to now addressing 100 plus youth in a weekly meeting, that was a wonderful journey to go on with her and to help her through it. And so she had this idea to create a storybook around LGBTQIA+, and market it for young people, specifically children. She wanted it to show how people can dress differently, people can act differently, but in the end, we all have to be inclusive and supportive of one another. And she thought the best way to do that was through a storybook. And it's amazing to see the illustration she's coming up with and the people and the team that she's leading. So I would have to highlight that as one of the top initiatives that we've worked on, but this is just a highlight of the many things we have going on throughout our chapters. So where are we today? Knowledge and Necklaces is one of the campaigns we focused on a lot this past year within our London chapter. And this is when we created pearl necklaces and then reinvested the profits made from that into scholarships for young girls who are entering post-secondary or the next journey of their chapter. The Purple Box campaign, which some of you might have seen, you might have seen it on the news, the radio. We've been really trying to push this campaign out. It's our yearly fundraiser in which we put together these care packages and donate them back into community, specifically women's shelters. And as I mentioned before, we are currently expanding. We have chapters in Hamilton, Toronto, and London, and are currently exploring connections in Bangladesh and Brazil. So it's really interesting to see how much desire there is from young people specifically to get involved with gender activism and gender equality and gender empowerment. A lot of young people are really grasping for opportunities to use their voice and to amplify it. And at Champions of Change, I really just want to demonstrate how achievable that is for those young people and provide them the resources in order to do so within their community. And so on that note, I really just wanted to talk about how important it is to empower the young people in your lives. That's the biggest lesson I've learned. I've learned so much from my fellow peers who are in high school or who are recently into university. They have so much knowledge to share. They have such refreshed perspectives and are also going through so much. So I really encourage you to take a step back and consider what you can learn from young people rather than what you can teach them or what you can show them. Now, I do have another video. I'm wondering if there's time to show it.
Yeah, probably. Go ahead.
Okay. Don't want to go over my 10 minutes. So this was also designed by Jen, but this is centered around youth and volunteerism and youth leaders. Okay, let me know if you can hear.
Young changemakers are reshaping the meaning of social impact. As you may know, the social sector is an emerging industry and young people play an integral role in its rise. My name is Aditi, Youth Engagement Coordinator at Pillar Nonprofit Network, here to highlight why youth engagement and social impact is crucial if we hope to build a more sustainable, vibrant, and inclusive society. As youth, we will encounter some of the greatest transitions any generation has ever had to face. Climate change, gender equality, and sustainable energy, among others. Volunteerism and activism serve as such great outlets for young people to explore skills, step into true leadership roles, and influence impactful change. change making can have so many positive impacts. So we went out and asked a group of young people, why do you want to lead change? Here's what they had to say.
I want to lead change because I realize that young people like me have the power to shape the future, and we don't have to wait around for other people to do it for us. I want to lead change because I hope to leave a positive impact on the world and move humanity forward from all the negativity that exists in the world today. I want to lead change to make the world a more accessible and sustainable place for people to reach their full potential.
I want to lead change because I think so many people deserve so much better.
I want to lead change because when I can advance my community and make it a better place, it is the most gratifying feeling in the whole world.
Matson Kitamisi here. I want to lead a change because I'm tired of this status quo. And my society needs me. And I feel that I have a responsibility to partake in transforming the status quo and promoting a future which is different from this status quo.
For the young people listening today, I can't promise that embracing the unknown is easy, but I can guarantee that if you take this leap of faith, the change you can make will be so worth it. I urge you to find your fire, step into a life filled with courage, and never stop working towards the change you wish to make in the world. Take action today and get involved with Social 6, a program designed specifically to support youth-led social innovation. Contact volunteer@pillarnonprofit.ca for more information, or visit pillarnonprofit.ca/youth. For everyone else, Pillar Nonprofit Network calls on you whether you are business, government, or community. We ask you to support youth volunteerism, activism, and change making. If you're not sure where to start, consider your language. Use the right platform. Think about barriers. Be flexible. Stay open. Embrace new ideas and different cultural perspectives that can enrich your organization. Look at new roles that could be established to fit the unique skills that volunteers can offer. Provide purposeful work. Recognize cultural differences. Look beyond numbers to measure impact. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you change the world.
So I know I might have gone over my 10 minutes, but I thought that was a really wonderful video. Just being able to hear from youth and share that and amplify their voices was amazing. And so to end off my discussion this evening, I just wanted to highlight this quote: achieving gender equality requires the engagement of women and men, boys and girls. It is everyone's responsibility. And so on that note, I will hand it back over to Linda. And I just wanted to say thank you for having me and giving me the space to share this evening.
Thanks so much, Aditi. And I couldn't have asked for a better note to end on. So I'm so glad that you did show that video, because it really is very uplifting to see youth engaging in that format. And I think you've got a budding director or filmmaker on your hands there for sure. I first came across Aditi when I heard about the Purple Box campaign last year on the London News. And I did some digging and found the group, and we have connected ever since. So I saw the news piece again this year on the Purple Box campaign. So congratulations on the work that you're doing and the expansion as well. So it's wonderful, and thanks for your comments tonight. Next, we'll open the floor to Jed if you're ready.
Perfect. Thanks, Linda. I'm just going to share my screen as well. Perfect. Can somebody give me a thumbs up if everybody can see that? Perfect. Thank you. So hello again, everybody. My name is Jed Sardito. I'm actually the new experiential learning coordinator at the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry at Western University. To give a bit of background here, I'm actually a graduate of Schulich myself, but in terms of this role that I'm in, I was actually just hired back in August, and I think it was sort of good timing in a sense where Western and Schulich were still in the sort of the process of finalizing their strategic plans, and as part of their plans moving forward in the next few years, One of the things that we're really aiming for is to increase the amount of experiential learning happening within Western, but also at Schulich, but also to make sure that we give these opportunities for our students to be more involved within their community. So in my specific role, I support both the undergraduate and graduate programs over at Schulich. So it's definitely been a bit of a learning curve trying to learn this from more of a staff side back compared to when I was a student. But it's been great. And the really big aim of my role is to be able to provide these real world experiences for our students as they sort of are heading towards future careers or future careers within medicine, within healthcare, anything like that. Specifically today, I wanted to talk about our undergraduate group, which is our Bachelor of Medical Sciences program. Just to give a bit of background, again, it is a very competitive program. Typically, when students are admitted to the program in first year, they're typically in the Faculty of Science in their first 2 years, and then they actually apply for admission to the Schulich School of Medicine and Dentistry for the BMSc program for year 3. So again, like I mentioned, it's a very competitive program. They enter the program in year 3. And specifically in our talk today, I really want to talk about our interdisciplinary medical sciences students, or IMS students as we call them, because in our partnership with the Coalition and our Community Engaged Learning Project, this was actually a part of a course called Medical Sciences 4300A. And the course instructor for this course is a faculty member who is Dr. Sarah McLean. So the title of the course actually is called Addressing Healthcare Misconceptions Using Scientific Inquiry. And I think it's a great title for the course. And again, I could go into the background here and everything. In terms of what the course is aiming for, again, it's sort of a two-pronged approach where in my discussion with Sarah, her hope for this course when she first developed it was, again, to sort of address these issues that are happening within our local community, but also, again, that experiential learning component for our students to also sort of broaden their experience and to also develop those skills and competencies throughout the program. Our goal here is to really to have students take away some sort of real world experience coming out of their degree, especially as I mentioned, moving into employment or into professional schools or into a professional field like that. So again, to just give a bit of background for those who may be unfamiliar with what community engaged learning is, it is a form of experiential learning. It aims to achieve both academic and civic outcomes for our students. And it's there, and the other aim to that is hopefully making a meaningful contribution to both our local and global communities through a reciprocal partnership. And again, I can list off the benefits here. And I think the essence of this all is just making sure that, again, our students are coming away with that real world experience, but also, again, getting them involved within our community and having that civic engagement component to their learning. So typically with community engaged learning, this can typically happen in 2 ways. So either it could be placement based or it could be project based. Knowing the circumstances and the cards we're dealt with currently right now, this was project based this year. And typically with the time commitment, in addition to their in-class hours, so typically this past term, our students within the BMSc program, within the IMS group, they usually had classes on Mondays for 2 hours with Dr. McLean. But in addition to those hours, typically our students would be working on their CEL project for about 2 to 4 hours per week. I could go into this. I know this is a very intimidating slide, but this was the poster presentation that our group that partnered with the Gender Equality Coalition actually created and presented just a couple of weeks ago. And I guess to actually give a bit more of a background in how Sarah and I approach this course in finding partners is, I think we both share the approach that we want to address the issues in our London community. And we really want to take a lens of equity, especially as we work with different groups and to be able to support our community the best that we can. So again, that's sort of what our mindset is. And that's sort of my vision for experiential learning at Schulich, is to have the foundation of EDI, as well as having that experiential learning component for our students to take away too. So getting back into this, I want to apologize in advance because there is no way I could do this poster justice in comparison to the 5 students who were able to work on this project and present it. I connected with our students briefly to get as much information as I can, but again, I apologize, Linda and Danny, if I might miss some information here. But again, I want to at least give you I want to give this group a few highlights in terms of what this group worked on this past term. So again, with this community engaged learning project in partnership with the coalition, this group developed a two-part discovering body positivity and self-image workshop that hopefully will be offered to the London community in sort of a mentor-mentee setting. And the goal for this was to enable people of different ages, races, and genders to identify negative self-concepts about body image, but also to learn strategies to promote a positive body image, as well as coping mechanisms for resilience. So this group first started, again, connecting with Linda and Danny here. And again, with our students, they're coming from such a very scientific and a heavy scientific and research background. So they're very much used to conducting literature reviews and searches. So they began this project, again, just trying to get a foundation of key terms and definitions in relation to gender, negative body image, social media as well. So that's really where their learning started from there. And then in working with the coalition, I believe this workshop was divided into two parts. So the first part, having participants be focused on, again, that foundational knowledge and understanding those self-concepts about body image. And while part two was more focused on engaging participants within lifelong learning about body acceptance. After that, again, in terms of the results and as they worked through the term, they were able to come up with several activities as part of this workshop. So as you can see here in the results section, those workshops at a glance, this included two first workshops, which were called First Impression and You versus Me, to, again, foundational knowledge to recognize and identify those negative self-concepts. And then moving forward from that, actually, it goes towards a practicing self-love activity, which touched on daily habits to incorporate as part of their life. After that, it went towards a social media awareness activity in sort of showcasing, portraying how social media plays that role in developing those negative self-concepts. And then again, finally, going through a journey to body acceptance activity, which sort of walked through like a walkthrough visualization exercise from the group too. As well, oh, my apologies there. And then as part of that workshop as well, there was a self-test that would be given to participants at the beginning. So again, this is to sort of scaffold and gain some insight and knowledge about how people were approaching the workshop, what sort of knowledge they were building on as they worked through the workshop. And then afterwards, the hope would be to take this same self-assessment and conduct it again after the workshop has been finished to sort of see whether or not there had been a shift in their thinking after this workshop took place. Afterwards that, like I said, this was such a great project and I was really impressed with this group, and I'm sure Linda and Danny were as well, but it was great to see how this workshop and this deliverable that the group made really addressed those misconceptions and stigmas that are perpetuated within our society about negative self-concepts about body image. And hopefully this is sort of that building block to hopefully providing sort of those coping mechanisms to encourage resilience, foster more conversation and discussion about this topic, promote self-growth, and again, bring awareness to this issue that does affect our local community. I know moving forward with this project, it's definitely a tough one knowing that we were trying to do this in COVID, and the hope would have been to sort of again, have more in-person interaction. But I think in terms of the short-term goal here, I believe this group really wants to target professional support and hopefully partnering with a mental health worker in the future to hopefully help deliver this workshop. And long-term wise, maybe increasing this outreach to a provincial level as well. So that's sort of the gist of the project. Again, like I said, I wish I had the 5 students here. They probably could have done better justice than I did, but I hope that gave you a little bit of a highlight in terms of what this group did over this past fall term. I also just wanted to share a quick little picture here of the group along with Linda. So we did actually, again, have an in-person community engaged learning showcase just a couple of weeks ago. So within the course itself, we have about 85 students. And in addition to those 85 students, we had about 40 to 50 members of the Western community, as well as the London community, come out to see these projects and how they've come to life over the past term. It was great to sort of see the traction on this. We even had the president of Western, Alan Shepard, come to talk with our students. And I think this group was actually able to talk with Alan while he was touring around. And I believe also our new Associate Vice President, Dr. Opio Oloya, was also able to visit and talk with this group as well. So it was great to sort of see, knowing that, again, from our senior leadership and knowing how important experiential learning and civic engagement is to Western, it was great to see sort of the presence there, and for our students to be able to share that knowledge with those people that maybe they may not necessarily be able to interact with from time to time. So overall, we were so impressed, and Dr. McLean and I were very ecstatic about the day. Definitely, it was a difficult day just knowing it was in person, and I think it was one of those things where we haven't seen this many group of people in a space in such a long time. So it was a great learning experience. It was a great showcase, and I was really proud that our partners came out and our students did such a fantastic job over this fall term. And again, just on a closing note, again, I just want to thank Linda and Danny. Thank you again for hosting our students, for your leadership, for your kindness, for your mentorship. I know our students really appreciated it, and I know this was the first time, I believe, that the coalition partnered with us for a CEL project. So I'm hoping moving forward we can continue this partnership. I also just want to acknowledge Ella, Moraleo, Melanie, Hannah, and Millie. I know they can't be here today, but again, this was the group of people working with Linda and Danny, and they did a fantastic job on this project. And again, I just want to shout out again to Dr. Sarah McLean too for giving this opportunity to our students to learn about this, because I think a big goal here is just knowing we can't ignore these issues that affect our community without also considering the health of our citizens here too. So this was such a great project. And again, I just want to give a big thank you to everybody here. But again, I can't leave here without sort of giving a little bit of a plug. But if you do have any questions about community engaged learning, or if maybe your organization might be interested in partnering with Schulich, you're more than welcome to connect with me and contact me, because again, we're always looking for meaningful opportunities for our students to get involved and to learn. But yeah, I just want to say thank you again for having us here, Linda. And this was honestly a great experience.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Jed. I really appreciate that. And I'm so glad to have you on the call tonight. We had such a great experience, as you've outlined here. The team started out with an infographic. They put together a website. I don't know how they did it in the time you said that they had available to work on this. They, in the deliverable that they created, is a workbook for the participants and a PowerPoint for the presenter. And so everything is there. It's a package. It's all ready to go now in a workshop format. So it was a truly wonderful experience, and we hope to definitely work with your group again next year, maybe. So right now, I'd like to turn things over to Kinga, if I may, and the floor is yours, Kinga.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Kinga. I work at the City of London within our Anti-Racism and Anti-Oppression Division, which is newly formed, just a few months old. So today I'll be talking to you about our work under the Community Diversity Inclusion Strategy. So some of this doesn't necessarily land in the gender equity work, but is all encompassing or maybe focuses on a different population. So this year we've been very busy doing our work online. We've had to take a big shift from doing things in person and having our meetings in person to doing everything online. And that was a bit of a challenge. It took us some time to adjust just because of the nature of the work and the need for human connection and relationship building. So it took us a little bit of time to figure things out. This year we have been busy doing a lot of learning opportunities, a lot of webinars and lunch and learns and training that we've taken on, and some student projects also. So some of the things that we continue to do is our partnership with City Studios that is ran through Pillar, and doing some research with students, both with our university and our college. So we worked with a class at King's to do some research on in the topic of disability and intersectionality with different identities. So gender was one of those for intersectionalities that we looked at and how those identities affect people's access to services, especially when it comes to health and social services. So that class worked on research on some literature reviews. So we just got our findings 2 weeks ago from them. We've also worked with a class at Fanshawe to look at the experiences of international students as it relates to employment and finding employment, both as they're in school or post-school, postgraduate, and what are some barriers that they experience when doing that. And there's quite a bit that they encounter, especially when it comes to finding employment during a pandemic and being new to a country. We did a series of webinars focused on employment for immigrants as well. We partnered with Employ to do some professional development for both community members and organizations who might be hiring and looking to hire folks that are immigrants or are diverse themselves. We did partner with ANOVA and the local immigration partnership to do some gender-based violence training for settlement workers. So we had over 50 folks attending that training from across our community. We did that back in the summer. And our final thing that we worked on, we partnered with 5 other municipalities within our province to develop and host an anti-hate symposium for municipal workers and municipal leaders back actually last week on the 10th. So we had around 250 individuals that attended that session. So it was a very great success. And we had 8 speakers talking about different forms of hate. So LGBTQ2S+ was one of the forms of hate we focused on. We had a speaker from Kingston that spoke about that. We spoke about speakers about anti-Semitism, anti-Black hate, Islamophobia, anti-Asian. We had a very wide range of speakers that delivered presentations, and folks had the chance to ask some questions to the presenters. So we've been busy at work and making sure everything kind of keeps on going, and we address the needs that are within the community, and making sure it's all online and it's safe and as many people are able to attend. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't want to jump in and cut you off or anything, Kinga. You were so quick. But that event that you were talking about last week, I didn't attend that. I don't know whether I missed it or because it sounds really interesting, and I wondered if we could get a recording of that.
The big focus was on municipal staff, so we partner with municipalities from across Ontario. We didn't record it, just considering some of the conversations that were taking place, to just kind of make sure folks are comfortable asking and speaking about them. But I do have some PowerPoints that I'm happy to share with you if you're interested.
Wonderful. Yeah. And that's absolutely the conversations that we need to have, start having and continue to keep having. So thank you, Kinga. That was quick, but it was very, very informative. And like you say, keeping things online really does engage a wider audience. And so you have sometimes a bigger participation than what we have when we're meeting face-to-face in person. So thank you. The next person I'd like to call on is somebody I just asked today if you would speak. And so I recognize that was kind of last minute, Jamie. I'm sorry for that, but I'd like to turn the floor over now to Jamie.
Hey, I did try to throw together a bit of a slideshow, so I'll try and pull that up. Let's see how I do. Oh, skipped right ahead. So I am Jamie. I use they, them, or she, her pronouns. I have a slight preference for they, them, but I recognize people make mistakes and it's cool. I am the executive director of Young London. I began in this role in January of 2020. So to be quite honest, it's been an uphill battle through this. I will call it a bit of a dumpster fire, but trying our best. Previous to this, I've served in a number of different roles related to youth engagement. I would kind of consider myself like a professionally engaged youth throughout the years. I've tried to always be pretty open about my lived experiences in poverty, mental health, intimate partner violence, those sorts of areas. And so in this role, I try to bring an intense passion for getting others involved in the spaces where decisions are made about them and where they are often underrepresented. So a bit about Young London. We are not specifically focused on gender equality, but rather equitable access to community life for all. And on this, you can see we are by young people, we are for young people, and we exist to create equitable opportunities for young people to engage in these leadership spaces and decision-making. That's because we live here, and so our ideas, perspectives, and experiences belong here and in the things that impact our lives. What's on this next one? This. We specialize in programs and projects that support things like civic engagement that are often based in project-based or experiential learning. We also just celebrated 10 years since our 23-year-old co-founder went to a city council meeting and was the absolutely youngest person in the room, as he believed. So this sparked him to start our own council of young people ages 15 to 25 to represent the 14 wards of the city. The London Youth Advisory Council, of course, still exists today. I think Aditi was actually one of our counselors for a while, at least like a couple of years. So happy to see where she has gone with that, and hopefully she could speak to the importance of the program a bit. It has changed a lot since the way that it began, which was a lot about getting young people into the political arena and almost like elections and political training. But from over 10 years of running this program, it has changed more into helping young people develop community projects to address issues that they see in their communities and that their constituents identify, often through the referendum question that we put on the ballot each year. But we were originally incorporated just as the London Youth Advisory Council, and after 10 years, we decided to rebrand as Young London to represent that we had moved into engaging young people in a number of different spaces beyond just politics. So we also brought, over the years, we've started the Canada Life Young Leaders Program, which places young people ages 18 to 29 on nonprofit boards, which is actually how I have now met Linda. We gave her 2 young people this year, and apparently it's going well. So I'm excited about that. We have an upcoming in development program called the Community Action Team, which will be more of a curriculum-based program that supports young people to learn more about advocacy and grassroots organizing, and then community-based project building stuff. And then we have Youth and Philanthropy, which forms a committee to adjudicate on youth-focused grants that are provided by the London Community Foundation. So a bit about what happened in the last couple of years. The last 2 years have really blended together for me. So I'll kind of go over more over this entire kind of pandemic phase of things. I think we have faced a lot of challenges that most nonprofits have been seeing. So the changing funding landscapes, having to live in this sort of survival mode rather than that typical 5-year plan strategy mode. And I guess like forgetting to unmute in meetings, of course, and wearing the same sweatpants for a couple of weeks on end. I guess we have all sort of been there, but the biggest thing that I have seen is this community fatigue. So outreach and engagement of young people has changed a lot. And we used to really pride ourselves on being neighborhood based and meeting young people where they are at, both physically and otherwise. And with transitioning to everything online, that can't work out the exact same way. So there's always been a bit of this sense as the pandemic goes on that people are getting more and more tired of spending their entire days on Zoom. And of course, they miss some of that human in-person interaction and of course the snacks that we always provided at our programming. So things that could once have a bigger impact on people's lives are bringing something different and maybe a bit more tiring now that they have moved into the virtual realm. However, that said, I feel we have had some surprising success in a couple of our programs. In particular, usually the London Youth Advisory Council as our flagship program is huge, but we've actually seen the Canada Life Young Leaders program just explode over the last 2 years. So we went from having maybe 10 people that were placed on like 8 nonprofit boards. And now this year we had 70 applicants, but not enough boards to place them all. So we only placed 40. At 30 boards. So the future of that program is that I would love to see it expand more. So really we need more friends that are willing to take some young people and make their boards of directors a little bit more cool and hip and young, and to really value what young people, I guess, can bring to the table beyond just sort of the aesthetics aspect of it. We also this year partnered with a national organization for that program. So just testing out whether or not we can scale it out. And I think that was kind of a success. So maybe we'll also be hoping in like 5-year plan to have it a much bigger, not just London-based program. Youth and philanthropy as well. Our committee that adjudicates on grants. It also got a lot bigger and a lot more interest in it. So we had our largest ever committee this year, and we granted out about $14,000 to youth serving organizations and youth projects, as well as award recipients. If I had just a sort of cheers for the year or the last couple of years, it would really be the partnerships and the relationships that we have been able to build along the way, especially in those 2 projects. Those are ones that we have partnered with other organizations on. So it's been really important to have like strong friends, especially as somebody that came into this role and has had no sort of formal experience in something like this. It has meant a lot to have that community support. And I think it's something that the community and the sector overall has done a great job of over the last couple of years. And then I guess looking forward, the dream is always for more people to really value what younger generations can bring to the table and for them to feel empowered to take up that space as well. So I'm hoping that in 2022, we could get a little bit closer to that, as well as increasing engagement. We often impact a small amount of people a lot rather than a large amount of people a little. It's not a bad thing, but overall we are called Young London, so we should try to engage more young Londoners overall. And then hopefully going back to strategic planning, because I'm still flying by the seat of my pants and getting invited to events and getting to talk about myself a little bit at the last minute, but hopefully I did okay. I don't think I have That's just a little message. You live here. We're here to bring your voices to the forefront too, no matter your age. Technically, it is in our mission and our vision to care about community life for all. So you are constituents of us. So if you have an issue or something that you are interested in working on together or want to collaborate with young people on, that's what we're about. So let us know. This is my contact information. Yay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. And thank you for being so willing to jump in at the last minute. It was one of those things where we had a meeting earlier today, and we've been partnering with Young London for the youth on the board. This is going into our second time now. And the youth that filled our position on the board last year decided to stay. She loves the board so much, and now we have two youth, a male and a female, and so it's great. We love continuing that relationship. So thank you very much. And our last speaker, last but not least in any way, shape, or form, is speaking from our founding organization, the Canadian Federation of University Women here in London. And Sue, I'm going to turn the floor over to you now.
I think you're muted, Sue.
Yeah, we're not hearing you, Sue. You have to check your microphone. Still not hearing you.
Yep, there's a line right through it.
There you are.
Okie doke, thank you. CFUW London Club actually has been in existence for about 100 years. Needless to say, the focus of the club over time has altered many, many times. At this point, because we're nonprofit and incorporated, we could become part of the funding process for Linda's group, which was wonderful because we found out more about gender equity than we ever realized. The group we have right now is quite small, but we are focused on a number of community organizations. We donate to the United Way ANOVA lunch program, which was a very fascinating thing. There's a lot of funding happening at ANOVA, but the lunch program for the children involved was not funded. So we've added money to that. We also support the library's READ program, and we offer 4 amounts of money to both Fanshawe and to Western. And it's interesting, each one of those organizations has their own way of distributing the funding. We wind up with 4 $1,000 bursaries to go to Fanshawe, but at Western it winds up being 2 $2,000 bursaries, and we do that on an annual basis. This last year has been fascinating for us. We have become more exposed to Zoom than we ever had, and if Linda hadn't been on our board, I'm not quite sure what we would have done. She is our Zoom expert, as I would say. She schedules all that. So we have all our meetings by Zoom. We have monthly meetings, several of them. One sort of a general speaker-led meeting, and the other one we have what we call, I think it's Happy Fridays, isn't it? We do once a month. And then we have a painting program, which has been quite fascinating. And we do that once a month as well. So we try and expose ourselves to the activities going on in the community, as well as particular interests of various members of the club. What we have found is that our exposure to speakers that can expand our awareness of what's happening in the community is fantastic. We no longer have to pay for travel expenses and overnight expenses, etc. We pay for the person to provide a 40-minute talk, and then we have another 20 minutes of questions. And I have a feeling we may be continuing with Zoom longer than we expected, in that we've managed to squeeze a couple of our Tuesday lunch sessions as well as our Christmas banquet as in person, but that's the first 2 group sessions we've had in more than a year. And we have found that the speaker sessions have been wonderful because we can get people from many places, Toronto, St. Catharines. I can't remember where some of the other folks have been from, but it's been a good experience. So that this pandemic, while it's been a pain in the butt, has really increased our organization's exposure to the community as well as to the country in general. And if you've got any questions, I'm willing to answer them.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sue. Yeah, so the Zoom feature is not for everyone, as some of our members haven't been able to successfully join in. But for the members that have been able to join in, we've been able to really bring in some high-powered speakers, as Sue said. So that's been a real positive boon for having Zoom and having to learn it and having to kind of take the pill. But then we had some great spin-offs. So thank you, everyone, to all of our speakers tonight. You presented some really, really interesting, wonderful things. I have to say that from the coalition's perspective, we have been challenged because we can't meet face-to-face. And I think that does take away something when you're talking about board meetings in particular and the relationship, that close relationship building that we experience within a smaller group. But on the other side of that coin is the reach that we've been able to create. And as I said to Kinga, that larger audience and people from farther away, or people that maybe couldn't take the time to actually go to a face-to-face meeting, but can manage it because it is on Zoom. So I think that we have had some negative and positives, as I'm sure most groups have. And the relationships, I would say that, as Jamie had said, those relationships we're building, the same as what they were saying. It's just amazing, and that continues, and that's strengthening. And I it's proof in the pudding tonight with all of our connections and relationships that we've built, and the folks that are on the call tonight. So at this point, I would like to very much open things up to questions. Now, I know that we did ask some other people to speak, and we didn't hear back from groups, I don't believe. So if you are on the call and you thought you were speaking, or you thought you were going to speak on behalf of your group, now would be the time to unmute your microphone and say hello. And barring that, I would say now is also the time for thoughts, questions, comments. Is anybody want to offer a comment or a question? Just go ahead and unmute yourself. So I guess my question would be to Aditi. You presented positive, win, win, win. So one of the things that we were thinking about tonight is, were there any negatives that you experienced with the champions going in this past year?
Oh, definitely. As I mentioned, this was a huge transition, both for me and for every student going back to in-person learning. I know that the weight and the stress and just the tiredness that we're all feeling as students really, it's heavy to hold as we're trying to both do this work and wear the hat of activists, but also go to class every day and be present and be engaged with our learning. And so I think the biggest struggle for me personally was sort of leaving Champions of Change to take a break in terms of focusing on my studies, and also leaving it in the hands of someone who was also going back into grade 12. You know, she was for the first time leading 3 different chapters, engaging with 100 youth throughout these 3 chapters. And, you know, for me, it was a struggle, but it was also a win in a sense that I got to see how much she could grow and how much she was able to take that on as a leader. But, you know, it did take a lot of work. We are still sort of recovering from that hit of going back to school, but, you know, we're all in it together. So we're working at it.
That's great. Yeah. And I can certainly relate to that school infringing on all of this great stuff that we do outside of those events. I mean, we did have a few other groups that couldn't attend tonight, and school and exam. This is exam time for Western, and so we've partnered with a UNICEF Western, and they were unable to be on the call tonight. Jed mentioned that the team from Western that worked on our project were unable to attend the call tonight. Again, the exams are just, you know, it's that busy time for all students. And I thank you for taking the time to be here. Danny, did you have any comments that you wanted to make?
Not really. That I'm inspired in everybody's story. I could quickly share. I'm the co-chair for the Coordinating Committee to End Women Abuse. And we've had some huge successes over the last few years. I would say the biggest success is that standalone language with the municipal government that talks about London interacting and being a city safe for women and girls, and how much that language has allowed us to do some pretty impressive work that we wouldn't be able to do in the past, right along with getting ANOVA vaccinated, their workers front of the line to get vaccinated, which shouldn't have been as big of a battle, but it was. And you know, with COVID, it's a new time for everyone. But I'm really super proud of that language. I think the city should be super proud of that language. And having that language means we can, you know, push the community and work with the community to really, you know, make a city that's safe for women and girls. And, you know, a city that's safe for women and girls is safe for everyone. And, you know, it's really sort of a crucial part. Matthew talked about it. Everybody talked about it. Leah talked about it. Like, when women and girls are safe, then we can start to do some other work. I would say they also need to be housed safely, but that's a conversation for next year. But I just wanted to thank everybody for sharing their stories. It was extremely powerful.
Did you want to say anything about our Trailblazer Award, since we have a captive audience here?
That's a great idea. So Doris, I think, is somewhere on the call still. But we're so pleased. We created an award, Trailblazer Award, for this year. And the first Trailblazer Award went to Doris Hall. And she really... she is a past president of BPW, and she has been doing work for women for, I won't say how long, but for all of her years, years and years and years. And, you know, if it wasn't for women like Doris blazing the trail, we would all have so much more work to do. So a huge thanks to Doris.
So I can share. So we were able to present, this is a brand new award that we have just started issuing or honoring someone in the community. And we had 2 nominations for this award this year, and Doris was the recipient. So this is Doris receiving the award Tuesday night, was it? And congratulations. So one last thing, I will share my screen one more time, just to see here. we'd like to invite you all to our January meeting, which will be Gender and Politics. And again, it'll be the third Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. We do have the Eventbrite up and open, and we will have more information coming forward about our speakers. And we hope that you can all come and join us for that in January. So on that note, I would like to thank everyone for your attendance, thank our speakers. Thank you so much for sharing your trials, tribulations, successes, and rewards. And thank you to our audience and for being here. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good night.